Hello, everybody. So, in today's episode, what we're going to talk about is what does it really take to have a multi-million dollar business model? And I'm excited to talk about this topic with you because recently I've been really focusing on my limitless wealth offer, which is an offer that's for business, service-based business women who are scaling. And that focus, I've been doing a lot of business building sessions. And so generally when people come to see me she's generally making six figures, sometimes multi six figures, but she wants multi six figures, like high six figures, seven figures, sometimes, and it depends on where she's at in her business, sometimes multiple seven figures. And I've been in business now for actually, it was just my 8th year birthday in business. And in the online space, I've spent a lot of time. I've spent a lot of money. I've learned how to do the digital marketing. I've learned how to build funnels and content creation. And obviously you're listening to my podcast. And so what's so interesting to me is that now when I get on these meetings with people, it's so clear to me why she's stuck at six figures, right? It's so clear. Usually I wouldn't say like she's undercharging, but she's for sure not charging premium prices. She would need a lot of volume to be able to make the money that she wants to make. Oftentimes her teams aren't necessarily set up, which is fine. I also want to point out you can make $1 million with a very, very small team, 2-3 people, depending on what you're offering. And I'm moving my notes here. Anyways, so today we're just going to talk about it. So what does it take to have a business model that's simple and streamlined and makes, seven figures, right? So I'm going to tell you a quick story, and then I have five main points that we'll go over. So I was working with a new client recently, and so she was selling consulting services, and she has a course ready to go, and she was selling this for like $3,000. I was like, all right, so if you want to she wants to make $500,000 soon, right? Like, so she wants to be working on that soon. And I was like, all right, well, you're going to have to be making a lot of sales, right, to be able to do this. I was like, well, what if we increased the value of the offer like in XYZ ways and then increase the price tag, right? So I was like, what she was offering, I think the price was probably a little low, but that wasn't a terrible price. But I was like, if we kind of switch your marketing around these topics and we like fine tune this, I think you can really create enough value to make this offer a $10,000 offer. Great. So now we start looking at, all right, what else do we want to offer? And we talk about 2 other offers at higher ticket ranges. I think we talked about a $25,000 and a $50,000 offer, right? Because she's doing consulting for organizations. And so we were like, all right, cool. So we have those things, and those things are less about having a big package. It will be sold out like one-offs. So I was like, all right, so basically for you to make $1 million at $10,000, we need to sell 100 of these in a year, right? So this $10,000 offer. Now you start looking at that and I'm like, all right, so basically we need to run traffic. We need to do some things. We need to like map out your sales process. But I'm like, if all you do is this one thing, getting 100 in a year isn't that hard. Like, I don't want to say it's easy, and I'm certainly not saying that it doesn't take any work, but I'm saying all of the focus that you need to spend. Actually, so this takes me to what we're actually working on. All right. So the first thing that we need, right, to have this multi-million dollar service-based business model is we either need a leveraged business model, and hers is already leveraged because she's got some course material. Now it's not only that way for this woman, but it could be solely course material. My opinion on online courses is that the value of online courses and selling solely courses over the next few years is probably going to decline because of AI and ChatGPT. That's not like a fact. That's my opinion, right? So I think for me, one of the things that I'm focusing on going forward in my business is the human connection, right? Like really talking to people, really getting the chance to literally love them. Like that's one of the things. So we talk about that. So I was like, so now she's not just selling the course. There's some coaching and consulting and like, one-on-one work, right? So we have a business model that's already leveraged. So when we think about her having 100 clients in there, it's possible, right? So when we think about this, we can set up like group coaching calls or the course, she'll do the course and then she'll meet with people a certain number of times, right? And so we either need to be really leveraged or we need to do premium pricing, or we can do a little bit of both. So those two things are like points that if you want to be working like 4 hours a day. And I want to talk about this real quick also. We're going to just take a little side quest. So an 8-hour workday, Henry Ford invented for factory workers. An 8-hour workday makes literally no fucking sense for women, right? Because I want to just point out an 8-hour workday is made for men because men's like hormone cycles work on a 24-hour cycle. So men's testosterone rises in the morning and falls in the evening. And so an 8-hour workday, the 9 to 5 is made for a man's body. Now, for women have expectations on them from their children, from their pets, from their plants, from keeping a house clean, right? There are, like, women don't have the same lives as men. One of the things that I think is really important is that we as women build businesses for fucking women's lives. All right. Like one of the things that causes burnout. And now listen, I'm actually just about to be 41. And most of my clients are in their 40s and sometimes I'm working with clients in their 50s. But what happens sometime around like ish is fucking perimenopause. And the burnout for women and getting into their 40s is so real because it's our bodies are doing cougar puberty. We have other stuff going on. So we don't necessarily have all the time in the world to work. And advice like pushing harder and hustling and grinding and doing all that stuff, it might work for men. Men can really achieve their next levels of success while they're not having cougar puberty. Not to say that men don't have their own like, midlife crisis. I'm sure they do. But also I'm just like, when I think about like when I'm working with my clients, one of the goals that most of my clients has is to work less. She wants to work a 4-hour workday. Now, I have been successfully working, listen, sometimes I work a 5-hour workday. Sometimes I work a 6. Every now and then I would go on retreats. I probably work 10 hours a day on retreat, right? But a 4-hour workday is mostly what I work. And I cycle sync a little bit. And I feel like it's also worth mentioning, right? Because like right at the beginning of the cycle, I have a lot of energy and that's a great time to get my content done. It's a great time to like, get things done. And toward the end of my cycle, like once I'm in my luteal phase, like not so much. Like I'm a little bit low energy. I'm more likely to work a 2-hour day and then rest a little bit. All right. So I want to point these things out because I think another thing that's really important about building a 7-figure business model is that you do it on your time. You do it on you build your business to create the life that you want. And I think this is a really, really crucial bit. So anyways, back to my points. Okay. So we either need a leveraged business model, right? And so leveraged means that you're doing, if you like, let's say you're in service, you're doing one to many, or if you're selling some sort of information that you have that information like cataloged in courses, right? Like, so you're not selling time for money or the time that you are selling is leveraged, right? So we need a leveraged business model. Also, now, for the women who are hiring me, we're generally going with a premium pricing model, which I think is really, really wonderful because when you're charging premium prices, your volume doesn't need to be that high to be successful. And so when it comes to living a slow life, when it comes to working 4 hours a day, right? When we think about getting 100 clients in a year, I'm like, all right, so that's 2 clients a month that, so we'll probably need 4 sales calls a week, right? So if like we start looking at like, what does it take to get these clients in for this woman, right? And I'm like, all right, so when we're charging premium prices, we don't need to be selling hundreds of a product a week. Now, listen, I want to point something out too. So I've sold low ticket offers online and it works. Like you can do it. I actually currently the online space is the word floating around the interwebs is trust recession where people are taking much longer to buy. And so traffic costs are going up, which sometimes happens. But a premium priced product really, really helps because when you're being paid properly, like when you're being paid generously, you have the money to hire people, you have the money to like build. You have the money to build. When you're charging like not like I would say an average price or a low price, you need a lot of volume. And so it's a lot of work for a medium or a little bit of money. And so a premium priced offering is going to be really key. Now, for many of the women that I've worked with, their butthole clenches when I'm like, all right, well, let's be looking at a $10,000 to $20,000 price range around this, right? I actually just had a meeting with somebody who a different client the one I'm telling you about. And when she tells me what she offers, I'm like, holy shit, this is so important. This is so valuable. You should be selling this for like $20,000. She's currently selling it for like $1,200. And I will like watch the fear on her face, like can see her body seize up. And she's like, but will people pay that? And I was like, fuck yeah, they'll pay it. And I was like, and if you're, and I said, if you want to make the amount of money that you want to make, you sell 15 of these in a year, that's like one client a month. You have time to do your marketing. You have time to do your sales. You have time to do your deliverables. Like you need to be priced properly, because if you're undercharging, you have to work so fucking hard. Like basically that's it. All right. So the leverage business model, premium pricing. Now, this next thing was we need well thought out marketing, right? Because we have to bring people in straight from strangers that have never met us before. And now we're trying to sell them something premium. We're trying to sell them a super high value thing. So we need to be thinking about that. All right. Which means that we also need a customer journey. And what this means is we have to be thinking about like, all right, people are meeting us online. Where are we sending them to? Where are they going? Right? So I'll share my model with you so that way you understand what I'm talking about, right? So I create content online. So I write Facebook posts. I do Instagram posts. I'm on Threads, although I mostly just write weird shit there. I have an email list, right? And so the outward facing marketing, and sometimes I'll be a guest on other people's podcasts or things like that. That outward facing marketing generally brings people in to follow me on socials. And then we're really pushing people to listen to my podcast or consume YouTube content. Why do I do that? Because when people binge my content, the people who do not like me, the people who are not into the F word or who want something much more practical and less energetic based or whatever, people who don't like me go away. And the people who do like me get to see my face. They get to know me. They get to know, like, and trust me. And so this way, when I'm going to sell them something, they're ready for it. Not everybody's process has to be that way, but it's the way that my process works. So it's a very simple customer journey. So we need marketing that's well thought out. Now, when we were talking about well thought out marketing, we have to really get into the mind of the premium buyer. We need to understand their problems. We need to understand what they want. We need to understand what's in the way, the root causes of things. We need to be able to help them get from here to there. Now, that doesn't matter whatever we're selling. If you were selling, most of my clients are in service-based business. So again, it's like, how does our service close the gap between getting them from wherever they are, but that they do not like, to wherever they want to be? And so we need to be able to speak really clearly to both of those points. We need to be able to speak to their pain points, why they're stuck, what's going on, what could be better, what could be worse, what could be worse. And we need to also be able to speak really clearly to their desires, because desires and hangups are generally happening in the unconscious mind, right? People, when somebody's stuck in business or stuck in some way, they can't usually articulate why they're stuck. They're just like, I know I'm stuck. I feel stuck. And you're like, okay. And then we have to figure that out. So the marketing methods is one thing, but what I'm talking about here is messaging. Now, messaging, I will tell you, takes a bit of practice. What's so funny is, so many of the clients that I have in Limitless Wealth, a lot of our communication around their business is really just fine-tuning the messaging. Because if you do messaging that is for people too early in their journey, you will generally attract people who cannot afford premium pricing. Right? So premium pricing really requires that you're able to speak to the value, that you're able to speak to the problems, right? The problems and the value. And so if we talk to problems that are too broad, we're not just going to get the premium buyers, we're going to get everybody with that problem. Right? We have to be really specific. So anyways, messaging takes practice, especially dialed in messaging. But listen, if you want to make $1 million in 4 hours a day, it is worth it to spend the time really getting good at your messaging. And and two for my own horn here is, I'll tell you, I spent a lot of time doing messaging and I've spent a lot of money to be good at it. And so the feedback that clients get from me when we're working together inside, inside Limitless Wealth, the clients get access to me via WhatsApp. And so a lot of times that's what we're going back and forth about. Tweaking that messaging is a super, super important part of being able to attract the right buyers, right? Because if you're attracting the wrong buyers, you'll believe that a premium business model is impossible, because you'll get so many price objections, right? And it will be so frustrating and it will be so annoying. So the marketing around these things is really important. And I'm saying marketing, but it's really, really the message, right? And this stuff is not something that you just learn how to do. It's something you have to test. It's something like you're not going to know until you write the post. You're not going to know until you send the email. Like you're not going to know until, you make the video, what kind of people it attracts. But once you've done it, many, many times, you start to get good at it and that you can dial it in so well. One of the things that I always find to be like the best compliment is a lot of times when people book a call with me or they talk to me about working together, they're like, I've been reading your posts and it just seems like you're in my mind. And I'm like, yeah, because I am. Because I am. All right. So that messaging. Now, customer journey, I started to talk about a minute ago, but customer journey is like really the steps. So let's say people are going to find you on cold traffic and you're going to push them to a lead magnet, and the lead magnet has an email sequence, and that could be one customer journey, and you're pushing people into a sales situation. You could have another customer journey where people see your ads and then, push them to a free masterclass. They're like a webinar, or you get them on a sales call. So we want to be really, really cognizant of what customer journey is, because as a sales professional, knowing what the next step is really, really makes it simple and easy to be able to do this thing. So I'll tell you the sales process, my customer journey again. So I run cold traffic. People generally follow me on the socials. We push them to the podcast right here or to YouTube. Now from here, I'm going to invite you to book a call with me, right? So we know I'm working with women who are scaling their businesses. We're working with people who are already making money and want to make multiple 5 figures or multiple 6 figures, 7 figures, right? We want to be doing that. These ladies are not looking for the men's version of success. They want a 4-hour workday. All right, cool. So we're starting to see, all right, so okay, great. Now, if you've gone back and listened to my podcast, you'll hear me talk about reasons that people get stuck and I offer solutions, right? So then I invite people to book a call with me. What do we do on that call? So on that call, I get to know them just a little bit. Why? Because working with me for a year is a lot for both of us. It's a high intimacy container. So I want to talk to people before they just are able to buy like access. That is because these containers have a lot of access to me, right? Because I really want people to succeed. And I love, like, I get a lot of fulfillment out of the little tweaks and watching it all happen. There's a lot of joy in that for me. So I'm a little selfish with the way that I do things. All right. So we do that first meeting. That's just like a free call. Listen, if you're listening and you're like, I want this, great. If you go to the show notes, there's a spot to book a call with me. Then on that call, what I do is we're doing a vibe check. We're checking, does working together make sense? Are you in a spot where I can be of service to you? Do we get along okay? Do I believe that I can help you? Do you believe that I can help you? And then if we want to work together, then I offer a business building session. Why? Because I want to see the nitty gritty. I want to see what's going on. I want to make sure that if we're going to work together for a year, that I know that you have a business model that can work. I want to know that I want to see all of the bits and pieces. Because what this tells me is, what's so funny is what it tells me is like exactly where the holes in your business are, exactly where like the hangups in your mindset or your energy or your emotional range. Like I can talk to somebody for an hour and I'm like, I can tell exactly why they've been stuck in their business or exactly what the challenges is. Which is so funny because I'm saying, like, if you're a business owner, you know that you could probably do this too. It's easy to look at other people's stuff. It's always harder to look at your own stuff. And this is why we need coaches, right? All right. So anyways, in that business building session, right? So when I worked with this client that I'm telling you about, we built out a business model that I was like, this business model can hold about $3 million with you working the way that you want, which is about 4 hours a day and maybe taking most of the Fridays off, having the freedom to travel, which is important to her. So this business model can do this. I said the first year I would stay focused on this one part, and you'll probably make multiple 6 figures if you just stay focused and you keep doing the thing that you need to be doing. And then as time goes on, you'll have these people that have bought this other thing, and then they will potentially be really, really good fits for your higher level stuff. So I was like, we start working on this customer journey. All right. Then when we have that, then that's the place where we can start turning on our ads. We can start buying traffic, right? Because most of the time, if you're going to be doing 7 figures or multiple 7 figures, even multiple 6 figures, listen, there are people in this world who are so into social media that they can do this all organically, and fucking good for them. I love that for them. And honestly, sometimes I'm quite envious of that. I'm not trying to make 1,000 social media videos. So what do? I pay Facebook, I pay Instagram to show these videos to more people. So it's like I spend a little money, I spend some money on ad spend, and that gets the people to know me. They get to see my face. They get to know if they like me. And that's that. So anyways, I just want to, there's a couple things that I really, really want to talk about with this idea, because there's a few hangups. All right. So sometimes people have hangups in getting leveraged, and the hangups are generally going to be internal nonsense. Is this good enough? Our insecurities, like we overcompensate for stuff and we pour so much more into offers or programs or services, not because our client actually needs them, but it just covers up our own insecurities. And I've been there. All right. So when we think about the leverage business model, we need to know exactly what our people need. All right. We need to know. When I'm talking about this business model could be for somebody brand new to business if they already have a lot of experience. But this is for somebody who's already been in the game a minute, somebody who's already run some traffic and done some marketing. Right. So when we think about that leverage business model, we need to know exactly what our people need and how to best serve them. All right. When we think about that premium pricing, for most of us, that feels really uncomfortable. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on our own mindset, our own energetics, our own nervous system to be able to say the price and to be able to convey the value of that. And I really just want to point out that this is the inner work. Most of the time I talk about the inner work, but in today's episode, I just want to match that up so you can kind of see, because if you feel uncomfortable with premium pricing, your sales are not going to work. Like you're going to lose it. You're going to reject, like your energy is going to be weird and wobbly, and people aren't going to buy the thing that you're offering. That's what happens. So that premium pricing, you have to learn how to feel steady in that. You have to convey the value so hard that this makes perfect fucking sense to you. It makes perfect sense to them. You have to be able to convey so much value that the price is like obvious. All right. So then when it comes to the marketing, the inner work of the marketing is discouragement. You're going to eat a fucking disappointment sandwich. You're going to get discouraged. You're going to put your effort into something and watch it fall flat. You have to try and try again and try and try again, because messaging isn't just the sort of thing that you can't even really pay I mean, you can hire an agency to do your messaging for you, and it might work. But I will tell you, I've been in a lot of rooms for a lot of people that have hired marketers, and the marketers don't know the messaging because they haven't talked to your exact audience about that exact problem the same way that you have. And so the thing about getting really good at messaging is that most of us, if you can't tolerate those sensations, right? When we talk about emotional range, if we can't tolerate those sensations of failure and disappointment and discouragement, and I put myself out there and I ate shit in front of everybody, that's the inner work. That's, like a lot of business success is getting the reps in, trying again, doing it again, and making it better next time. And it's when you're doing it over and over and over again, it can be really annoying and it can be really discouraging. And that doesn't mean that your plan's not working. And I just really want to point this out to you, because that doesn't mean that your plan's not working. And so many people, when they can't handle the inner side of wealth, they go and they try a new strategy, or they make new offers, or they decide a different price point, or they get a whole new audience. And it's like, you just didn't try it until it worked. I was talking to a lady at a party recently, and she was telling me about some trouble that she was having getting some like real estate agent up and off the ground. And I was like, I'm listening to her talk, and I'm like, yeah, girl, you didn't get the reps in. You didn't do you know how many shit sandwiches you have to eat to make the kind of money you want to make in sales? Like, the inner work of this is trying again. The inner work is nursing your disappointment when you need to, or being with your discouragement, or whatever else. And what I want to say here is, it's just a feeling in your body. Like if I said to you, hey lady, weird question, would you be willing to feel the sensation of disappointment, I don't know, for 3 minutes every day for $100,000 a month? You'd probably be like, sign me up. I'm already disappointed. Sign me up. I've been disappointed before. I can handle it. But somehow, when we don't phrase it that way, when our launch just doesn't go well, or our email has a low open rate or whatever, we start second guessing. We get into a tailspin. And it's like, I just want to talk over and over again that emotional range, the ability to handle big feelings and not lose track of the plan that you're on, is such a fucking lucrative skill set. And honestly, I've been in the coaching space, the online space for a long time, and I think I'm really like the only person talking about it. But anyways, so that this is the inner skill set. So when it comes to messaging, there's empathy, there's really watching your tone, there's a lot of human connection skill. A customer journey is a very practical skill. It's not, mapping out your customer journey. The thing about the inner work around it is really just making decisions, and it's really just curating. It's just deciding, all right, this is what I'm going to do and this is what I'm not going to do. And then again, it just comes back to doing it until it works. It's doing it until it works. And listen, sometimes doing it until it works is fucking annoying. But this is when we don't have that inner work set up, this is where shiny object syndrome comes in. This is where we're trying new things. We're hiring new coaches. We're doing all these new things. And it's like, just do the thing until it works. If there's information that needs to be gathered, there's tweaking that needs to be done. But I'm talking, if you want a really simple business model, do it until it works. All right. And then traffic, traffic again is like, it's mostly just a combo of these other things. It's really like when you're running traffic, it's really just the willingness to be seen, which comes back to the sensation around being seen, being exposed, people knowing that you're a success. Sometimes that freaks people out, and then obviously there's other inner aspects of wealth building that we cover. But this is what the few things I just want to wrap up with is at the very big risk of sounding tone deaf. It is easier to make a lot of money than it is to make a little bit of money. It's just easier. Like running a multi 6-figure, running a 7-figure business, working 4 hours a day, charging premium prices, doing less work to make more money is just easier than having a regular ass job. And it's also easier than having a lower priced business. It's just easier. It's a nice, soft lifestyle. I don't want to say that it's easy, like there's not work to do, because there's inner work, there's outer work, but it's just the kind of work that when you're steady it's easier than cutting back on your fucking groceries. It's easier than, than doing everything yourself. I don't know. So these are the things that, like, when I'm working with clients and we're in these business building sessions, like we're looking at that business model and we're seeing, like, how do we hold a few $1,000,000. And some clients want the ability to scale indefinitely, but I'll tell you, $1 or $2 million for a few, for a part-time business is okay. It's okay, right? Like, not every business has to be infinitely scalable. Not that you couldn't start somewhere and then also make it infinitely scalable, but sometimes people come see me and they're like, I need the infinity number of shit. And I'm like, the mental trap of that is, if you want infinity, like if you want that super unlimited sales and you're in service, well, then it's got to be so leveraged and it's got to be hands off. But then now it's not a premium service. So now we're back to the lower cost and big volume. And so if you have a ton of money for traffic, if you can get new clients from all over the place, then that can really work. Having a low cost service or a low cost membership, or, a course that you sell for a small amount of money, or even a medium amount of money, it can work. But a lot of times the infinite scalability you can get to once you're already super lusciously, like, paid. All right. So these are my perspectives. These are my ideas. And again, I'll just invite you, if you want to talk to me about scaling your business, book a call. The link's in the calendar. I love you so much. And I will talk to you next week. Bye, everybody.